The Assyrian Empire did not just conquer the ancient world, it terrified it. Long before Rome, long before the Mongols, long before modern armies marched across continents, there was Assyria, an empire built on iron, fear, roads, spies, siege towers, forced deportations, and kings who believed they had been chosen by heaven to rule the earth. At its peak, Assyria stretched from Egypt to Iran, from the Persian Gulf to the mountains of Anatolia, and for a moment it looked unstoppable. Its armies smashed city walls, its messengers crossed royal roads, its governors controlled distant provinces, its kings called themselves rulers of the world. And yet, within a single lifetime, this empire almost completely disappeared. Its capital was burned, its cities were destroyed, its enemies celebrated, and the name Assyria became a warning. So how did the world's first true empire rise so high and collapse so violently that the people it conquered tried to wipe its memory from history? To understand Assyria, you have to begin with a city. Not an empire, not a superpower, just a city on the Tigris River called Asher. At first, Asher was not famous for war. It was famous for trade. Its merchants moved goods between Mesopotamia and Anatolia. Tin, copper, silver, gold, textiles, timber. Asher became rich because it sat in the right place at the right time, and like many ancient cities, it had a god. But Asher's god was different. His name was also Asher. The city and the god shared the same identity. To the people who lived there, Asher was not just protected by a god. Asher was the earthly home of the god. That idea would become dangerous, because once the city became a kingdom, and the kingdom became an empire, Assyrian kings began to believe their conquests were not just politics, they were divine mission. To expand Assyria was to expand order. To resist Assyria was to resist the will of the gods. That belief turned conquest into something sacred, and sacred violence is almost impossible to restrain. For centuries, Assyria was not the most powerful force in Mesopotamia. It was pushed around by greater kingdoms: Babylon, Mitanni, the Hittites. For long periods, Asher was a vassal, forced to obey stronger neighbors. But weakness can teach a society one brutal lesson: never be helpless again. The Assyrians watched their walls get torn down. They watched foreign powers influence their politics. They watched trade collapse when stronger states fought around them. And when Assyria finally broke free, it did not simply want independence. It wanted security. Then security became expansion, and expansion became empire. By the time Assyrian kings began calling themselves king of the world, their ambitions had changed. They no longer saw Assyria as one kingdom among many. They saw it as the center of civilization. Everything outside it was disorder, and disorder had to be crushed. The Assyrians were not the first people to fight wars, but they were among the first to turn war into a machine. They developed one of the most advanced military systems the ancient world had ever seen. They used chariots, then cavalry. They trained archers. They organized infantry. They built siege towers. They used battering rams. They dug tunnels under city walls. They did not just surround cities and wait for starvation. They broke them open. Before Assyria, many armies struggled against fortified cities. A thick wall could stop an invasion for months or even years. The Assyrians changed that. They treated walls as engineering problems. If a gate was strong, they smashed it. If a wall was high, they climbed it. If a city resisted, they made an example of it. And that example was usually horrific. Assyrian kings left records of what they did to defeated enemies. They boasted about impaling prisoners, flaying rebels, piling up heads, burning cities, dragging kings in chains. These were not secret crimes. They were propaganda. The Assyrians wanted everyone to know, because terror was part of the strategy. A city that surrendered might live. A city that resisted might become a monument of corpses. And for a while, it worked. Kings paid tribute without fighting. Cities opened their gates. Rulers sent hostages. The sight of an Assyrian army on the horizon could break a kingdom before the battle even began. But terror has a weakness. It can force obedience. It cannot create loyalty. The Assyrians built an empire people feared. They did not build an empire people loved, and that meant every conquered province was waiting for a chance to rebel. The more Assyria expanded, the more enemies it created. Every victory added territory, but it also added hatred. Every conquered city brought wealth, but also resentment. Every deported population weakened one rebellion, while planting bitterness across the empire. Assyria's greatest strength was becoming